to tell me this. So why don't we discuss your approach to the protocol before?
Okay.
So to you, right, would you say that to you it's always really been hormonal therapy? To you in your mind it was important to follow, right? I mean, or did you see it as a diet?
I saw it as a diet because
yeah, but did you hold on a second, but in any way did you ever think this is important, we need to follow it? Did you really, I mean, sure, your approach might have been this is a diet.
No, okay, I see what you're saying. No, when you get the hypothalamus thing and all of that, it makes sense. So there is a part of you there was a part of me that always is like, this would be the answer, to reset everything. It's kind of like resetting the clock, so to speak. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But I think after all of our lessons, and the stuff we've worked on, I think that deep down inside, I looked at it as a diet.
Yeah.
I guess that there's that other side of it, but if we're being honest about it, it was really a diet.
Yeah, because you could say intellectually, you read Dr. Simeon's protocol, there's lots of different books about it, there's lots of different opinions about it. Scientifically, there's all sorts of stuff going into the connection between leptin and hCG and the dosing and all that stuff we can go in and in. But the truth of the matter is, if you say why you're doing it, you can fool yourself, right? Saying this is hormonal therapy and that's what it should be about. But I really want to make sure we monitor our weight because that's how we motivate ourselves.
Yep.
You hear it? You hear
that?
That's
exactly it. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then it's like, so let's think about it. I mean, have you ever done a round? 10 plus times. Have you ever done a round where you actually didn't want your weight to be a part of why you're doing it?
No. I was just thinking the first time I did it, the results were so shocking. So I think that you kind of go, holy cow. And then once you've done it, you're like, oh my God, I got to do that again. And then it really is kind of the cure to all of the other things that you do bad to your body. You kind of look at it as, oh, it's okay if I gain 10 pounds. I'll just do the hCG next month.
Yeah, because I can commit damage. I can do this abuse because the consequences are going to get fixed. So that means there's really no consequences to my behavior. Oh my gosh, it's like for the first time ever, I can do all this damage and not feel bad about it.
Exactly.
Because I actually found someone that can actually get rid of the issues. It's not, and getting rid of the issues don't take a ton of sacrifice.
It's not. It's the easiest thing. The hCG part is the easiest thing.
I know. It actually is like, you don't even deserve this reward, but you're going to get it.
Yeah.
I know it. So it's like, and which I find very parallel to, for example, if, let's just say your husband, wanted to cheat on you, just in the impulse of someone totally hitting on him, being like, hey, let's go out, let's do something. And if he was to like, I'm going to totally do this. But before he does it, right, if he doesn't want your marriage to end, he's got to on some way believe that if he gets caught, that he can try to fix it. He'll fix it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like someone saying, if I get caught, I will go all like, how can I manipulate her to not leave me? I'll quit something she doesn't like. I will go to church with her. I will, I'll tell her I've been saved. I'll like go get forgiveness. I'll go through everything I can. I will get her roses. I'll cry. Crying always works.
Yeah.
How can I get her? So the negotiation is real.
Uh-huh.
However, if your husband knew in advance that if you found out there was no way to negotiate, you're going to leave him. He's going to have to take full responsibility, and there is a consequence.
Uh-huh.
Now, would he still do it?
No, not unless he wanted to get divorced. Like Correct. If he knew that that's what he wanted.
Yeah, where you leaving wasn't that much of a punishment.
Right, exactly.
So it really forces before you do something, if you're truly going to have to own up to the consequences, and there's no way to hide them or get rid of them or to diminish the punishment of it, right? The negative consequence of it. There's no way to try to make it less. Would you still do the behavior? What are you willing to lose? Now you're dealing with responsibility. Is what I'm doing worth the loss on the other side? Because now you're actually getting a true, you're holding yourself to the actual consequence. So once you start to say, I can get rid of the consequences, or something that can be done to get rid of it so that it doesn't happen, that means I don't have to be responsible for that. You're more likely to do what you're negotiating for, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you can get away with it. I mean, why not?
Yeah. You don't have to take responsibility.
Yeah.
Even if there's a bad consequence, it can get fixed. So if it can get fixed, that means it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
That means I can do it as long as it gets fixed.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not having, it's like I have this freedom now to go into this neediness without having to deal with any form of ramifications, right?
Remember we were talking about that before the holidays. We were saying how even my mom, she said, on Thanksgiving, it's okay to eat as much as you want to eat because, that's what this day is all about. That's what you're supposed to do is make yourself sick because you want to eat everything you can possibly eat. Oh, and we'll just fix it in January.
Because you see, there's the illusion right there that, okay, I don't have to be upset about this because the damages I'm doing won't exist.
Right.
It's
like an eraser.
Yeah, that's what this is a diet right here. That right there.
Exactly. A little bit of whiteout eraser, you're set, man.
What happens if it looks like this, right? This is what you hold yourself to. Now you're really focused in on the present moment of like, is this really what I want to do? Do I really want? No, probably not. That's probably not what it's like, this is your diet. And granted, there is so much grace, but if you have to negotiate, right? The difference between true grace and this illusion of grace, right, that we do with negotiation is that grace with negotiation isn't really grace at all. It's full of judgment. It's full of shame. Yeah. Really, because let's think about this. If you have to negotiate for something, what does that tell you inherently about the choice?
Probably not a really good choice to begin with.
It's not really good in relation to the belief. Right?
Right. Well, if you have to spend that much time negotiating with yourself about something or justifying something or whatnot, then, maybe it's not clearly the direction you want to go. You're not being true to yourself if you have to take that much time to do that. Even though it happens in a second, it does. It happens very quickly in your head.
Well, the reason why it's so quick is because you think you can erase the damages. That's what creates the quickness. If there wasn't some way to fix the damages, let's just say of overeating, there's no possible way for you to recover from the damage. The damage is there. You created it. You have to have it. The negotiation would take longer. Doesn't mean there's not a negotiation because there's still the impulse for the want or the need of the food, right? But if you have to be responsible immediately for the damages and there's no possible way to remove the damages, there's no recovery from it, it's real, it's true, it exists, right? There is a level of patience you have in the moment of the decision, right?
Right. But at the same token, the second time you make that decision again, it gets easier and easier and easier.
Yeah, especially if the way you erased the damages works. So it's like saying, okay, I got away with cheating on my wife because I cried. I got away from having to be responsible about cheating on her because I made her feel like it was her fault. Because I blamed her for being fat. I blamed her for being mean to me. I blamed her for being cold. So it's her fault I cheated on her. So now I don't have any responsibility. Woohoo! I can keep on cheating on her until she holds me accountable. If she leaves me, That sucks. Now I have to take responsibility. But even then, I can blame her for leaving me.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So if we look at this in comparison to the body image belief system, it's like saying, I'm upset that I'm fat. It's unhealthy. And I need to lose weight because it's unhealthy. Hold on a second. But don't forget, you negotiated for all that food, and you only negotiated it because you thought you could get rid of the unhealth. But the truth of the matter is, diets are unhealthy inherently. So you're just making unhealthy more unhealthy with it. And now you're pissed that your body gives you a consequence. It's like you're mad you actually have consequences when you thought, when you made the decision, that the diet would get rid of the consequences. So should you be upset that your body now is saying, hey, this is your damages? Should you be mad at the body for doing what you knew it would do? Or should you get mad at the diet that's not working to get rid of the damages, like it said it would, like it promised you? Or do you really look at these impulses that you have for food? And you know what? Let's go further. Why do you feel deprived of food, which is why you have these impulses to negotiate for it? Because if we really look at negotiating for food, if we really look at negotiations for food, why would you feel the need to negotiate for food? Negotiation.
Because it's morally judged. You know, really, it is in our society. It's morally judged. Food is.
Well, you mean in the diet society?
Well, that's what most of our society is. The Western culture is a diet society for the most part. I mean, there's pockets of healthy people, but it's amazing how many people are unhealthy. You know what I mean? They're just not healthy.
It's not as much as you think, actually. But
that would be really great.
It's in first world societies that have nothing better to do than create drama with nutrition and micros and macros, right? So in reality, the reason why there's negotiation for food is because you feel deprived of it. The reason why you have to even argue to get the food is because there is a level of deprivation. That deprivation creates entitlement. I have videos. If you look back, the entitlement deprivation connection, the marriage between those two, the only reason why you're entitling yourself to it is because you feel deprived of it. So why would you feel deprived of food? Oh, because you don't believe that your body is adequate. You're not getting enough from the body. It has to be thinner. So we really go deep into the real root of this issue. It has everything to do with body image. If you don't feel that the body owes you anything in terms of visibly, regardless of your size, if you don't believe that the way you look defines you, if you don't believe that the way other people perceive how you look defines you, so whether it happens or not, if you don't believe that it matters, then it doesn't even matter, right? If you don't have those beliefs, does it make sense to deprive yourself of food?
No, because as soon as you deprive yourself, that's all you want. So you're really punishing yourself to a certain extent, and you're creating this vicious cycle that just doesn't end. So,
I mean, really look now at, okay, you're negotiating for food because you feel deprived. And you're having some form of external stress, right? You could say there's an external stress somewhere that provides a sense of instability. I can't handle, I need reward for this. Because you've deprived food, it makes it almost a guarantee that's what you're going to negotiate for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But here's another difference too. If we had true famine, okay, let's talk about the difference between famine and deprivation. Do you know there's a Do you know that there's a difference?
Well, deprivation, isn't that a choice versus famine is not a choice, right?
Let's start with famine. What is famine?
Famine is not having enough food.
There's no choice. It is a consequence of the environment. Famine is environmental. It means so it is what it is.
Which is deprivation you do.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean it could be there's nothing or there's some, but no matter what, it is definitely less than maybe what should be or whatever. It's just less than, and there's nothing you really can do about it. So you're really living in a state of famine versus deprivation. Tell me the difference.
I think deprivation is when you make a choice to not allow yourself to have something.
Would you say a good word for it would be being withheld.
Yeah. I mean, because you may not be the one that's depriving yourself. Let's say your parents are the ones that are doing it, and how we do that to our kids. We're like, oh, you can't have sugar because it's really bad for you. And so you deprive them from that. And that's all they can think about because you're depriving them of something. But it's still like, it's still a choice that someone made. It's not like there's no chocolate in the world anymore.
Yeah, so it's being withheld from it as if it's going away. It's not that there just isn't any. It's
right.
We have it and it's going away. You're being withheld. You are now deprived. Okay, so go back to famine. We don't have very much. Okay, just think in terms of true famine with food. We only have this thing of peanut butter with crackers. We are not sure when we're going to get more. Would you binge?
No, you would eat the minimal amount that you would need to eat to stay functioning.
Okay, you were talking about the biological ingrained knowledge we all have from birth for rationing. Thus, the importance of hunger. I talk about that.
Yeah.
In that case, in a true state of famine, you're wired to ration. In a state of deprivation, meaning it's going to go away, someone's going to take it from you. What's the impulse now? Is it to ration it?
No, it's to binge.
It's to eat it all now.
Yeah.
It becomes very black and white, where in a state of famine, you're trying to create gray. You're trying to create a very thin spread of it.
Yep.
Okay, so that it's not black and white. Far more logical. If you're going to be deprived, if it's going to get taken from you, remember, deprivation requires some form of entitlement. Like, it is mine, it is ours. You're taking away something that's mine. So there is definitely attachment in terms of deprivation. You're attached to it. You believe it's yours. You believe it's your right, and it's being withheld or taken from you, right?
Right. So how many of us go and say, oh, I'm going to go have a girls' weekend and do whatever I want because I'm starting my diet on Monday. And so you make it even worse.
I'm going to go cheat on I'm cheating on my wife because I feel deprived of that pleasure. She doesn't have enough with me, and that's my right. Okay. So then you start to negotiate. You see, when there's a sense of deprivation, something is being withheld from you. If it's going to get taken away or withheld, biologically in your brain, you're now experiencing some form of withdrawal. It feels like punishment. You feel it is unfair. You feel like you are being, it's almost like there's a form of rejection. It is biologically not a comfortable feeling. And it feels like you don't have control over it. It's very punishing, but you don't necessarily have control over it, right?
Well, and you become obsessed with it. Unless you can come up with other things to keep your mind busy, and even if you can, it's in the back of your mind.
So we could actually say in the brain, we could probably isolate a neuropeptide and actually say, you have too much of this, right? Yeah. But yet, how is it that you could have the same scenario, right, in famine, and it not create the same biological reaction to where you're like, I'm going to spread this out.
Yeah.
Part of it is that we don't attach to it as if it's something we own. It's like it actually becomes a necessity, right? So if you have a sense of someone took something from you. The food is, someone took my wallet. Okay? Feeling deprived of the money you made, there's a sense of lacking in that emotion, a punishment lacking, and also loss. I lost something that was mine. That's where it's all about, there's an entitlement to it. So let's pretend something like you are overweight, okay, and people are judging you, okay? Can you see how that would create a sense of deprivation? Meaning the body has taken away from me. It's hurting me.
Yeah. I mean, that's how and I still struggle with body image, but I think that's, You hit it right on the head. I mean, you look around, other people are judging you, and so therefore, you know, they don't think you have a right to speak. They don't feel like you have a right to, like you have any credentials to say what you need to say. Yeah.
Because what do you know, you piece of shit, right? You're fat. Yeah. What makes you think that you know what you're talking about? So don't you agree that in order for you to feel deprived, that means that you're entitled to a certain standard?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's like saying, I need to have that body. That's my right as a human being in this culture, because in order for me to be valued, I have to have that body. The body I have is completely getting in my way. It has to get fixed. I feel punished. I feel withheld from being seen as credible. I'm being held back from my potential in society because I have body fat. Because if I'm thin, I have what I deserve, which is respect.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're attractive and people listen to you, and there's all these things that come with that. You know,
so if you have body fat, if your body does not look, let's just use this way, if your body does not look like the ideal that provides respect, you feel, if you've attached to that body, you feel deprived of respect. You feel deprived of having something to be proud of.
Maybe that's why so many of us are on antidepressants.
You said that, not me. She said it. I did not tell you to say that.
It just dawned on me, you know, no wonder all of us are so freaking miserable. We're living up to this, trying to live to the standard that's completely, it's just irrational. It really is irrational.
Well, the problem is that because we live in this first world environment, and we feel entitled to it, we think that it's our right. When life happens, we feel deprived. My iPhone fell and the glass broke. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Right? I have body fat, and if I can't have all of my dieting and my macronutrients, I'm going to be unhealthy, and that is so not good. If I don't eat all of my macronutrients, I'm not going to be healthy. Do you think anybody in real famine thinks that way?
Oh, God, no.
Why?
You know, they just look at it so different. I know my husband and I went to Africa quite a few years ago, and I will tell you, the people in Tanzania are the sweetest, most happy people in the world.
First world.
And I think it all has to do with Maslow's hierarchy of need. You know, they're trying to put food on the table. They could care two shits what their hair looks like. You know, I mean, they don't care. What they're trying to do is provide. They're trying to live every day and just be happy.
And we could honestly say that's what we're doing in our first world entitlements that we think are necessary for survival. So we have a third world brain. We actually have a third world brain. That's how it's evolved. Yep. We have third world psychology. We can't get away from that. That's part of just how the human species has survived over millions of years. But yet we live in so much abundance that we become prideful about it. Like, I earned this. I was born into this, and I need it.
That's really interesting. That's a good way to look at that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of people who have everything they need beyond and above more than hundreds of people could use. And they actually feel that it is a true life threat if they don't have the best.
Yeah, the world's going to end. We're not teenagers.
No, they feel adults. That way. Well, how many adults are stuck in adolescence? Most.
Yeah, exactly.
Most politics, most religions are very adolescent. They're archaic, you know, because they're living in a third world environment in the brain, which is very inflammatory. If you actually believe that your phone, the type of phone you use, is a threat to social acceptance, you're inflaming the brain. It thinks it's actually a problem because you think it's a problem. Your beliefs are, it is the
so it makes the chemical reaction happen.
Yes, whether or not it's true doesn't matter. So how many people in our first world problem have third world brains because they truly believe that if I don't have the perfect body, if I don't have enough macronutrients, that I'm not healthy. In my abundance, I have to micromanage healthy in the abundance. Because you know what? They've lost sight of what real famine is and what health really is. And do we really, why is it that we can live in such abundance and be so unhealthy? Do you think it might have to do with perceptions about entitlements and deprivation, which creates all of this fight or flight survival need? As soon as you feel deprived, guess what's going to happen? You're going to fight.
Well, you do. Well, maybe this is too why it's just funny. When people are on a diet and they're eating a salad and everyone else is eating hamburgers or whatever it is they want to eat, I mean, it makes them so angry. I know I got so angry, and I'd be like, God, that's just not fair. Susie, she's like thin, that little bitch, and she's always thin, and I hate that, and I have to eat this freaking salad.
Okay, that's one part.
You would look at the calendar and go, okay, I only have to do this for 14 more days, and then I'm done.
Okay, there's that part, but then there's the other side of this, right? Which is, oh my God, look at these people eating cheeseburgers. How do they not care about their health?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how you feel when you see a fat person eating a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
But when skinny Susie eats a cheeseburger, you feel deprived of her joy because she's thin and she gets all of that freedom. Yeah. But as soon as you're fat, you can't eat a cheeseburger. What do you think you're doing? Don't you even care about your health?
I am.
Notice how crazy it is. It's just so freaking nuts. But I do believe it is a form of brain inflammation. You're living in fight or flight around the way you look. Right? So, I mean, really think of it now. So what if I were to tell you that what you have is like, okay, hold on a second. How do you fix deprivation? How do you fix this feeling of being withheld? Someone took it from you. I'm being withheld from it. Do you know how to fix that?
Well, you have to give yourself permission to have that.
Hold on a second.
Is that what you're talking about?
No. Hold on. I want to make sure that I say this right, and I'm not sure how to say it. I mean, I have all this feeling, and I have all this and then I got to put it into words. Okay, if you're being deprived of something that you don't have control over, it's being taken from you. Like, you're fat. It happened. You got in a car wreck. You can't use your legs. You got in some bizarre fire where it lit your skin on your face on fire, or caught you on fire, and now you have severe scar tissue that you can never remove. Your nose melted. You have a weird nose now. I mean, literally mutilated you. Don't you agree that initially you have this face, and then in an instant you have a mangled face?
Right.
You might have a moment of feeling deprived of the life of beauty.
I'm sure you would.
And punishment because you no longer have that to your advantage. The illusion of advantage, okay? Yeah. How do you transcend it? Don't you agree that you...
Well, I think that you have to accept it. At some point, you have to love yourself for who you are, no matter how you look, no matter what the circumstances are.
You change it into famine, which is, it's out of my control.
Right.
You go into, I have this. I'm going to make the best of what I have. What I have is enough because it's what I have.
Well, because what you're describing is that famine exists. And you're pissed because you can't have cheeseburgers.
You want more. You're entitled to more. But that's deprivation.
Right. No, but my point is like if there's a famine going on and you're like freaking out about something completely different that you really shouldn't be because it's not an option. So just shut up and deal with it. It's not an option.
Okay, when you say deal with it, we have to describe what is deal with it. You have to take what is and make it abundant. This is what we have. This is what we have.
Right. Yeah.
Now you don't feel so deprived, right? So if someone comes up to me and takes my wallet, how do I not feel victimized? I'm going to give it to them. I will give it away. I don't need it. You reduce your need. This whole thing comes down to attachment and need and what we think we're entitled to. You reduce the entitlement. I need much less. I don't need all of this. So if someone takes it from me, I'll give it to them. You can have it. You can have this.
Why don't you could write a book just on this subject. This is not, this is like a whole, you should just write a book on that, like on the whole deprivation thing. Because
this is going to be in my book. It'll be a chapter. See, listen to this. This is like why I'm seriously, I talk about this. Like, this is why this is so hard for me to write this book, because there's so much. So I'm going to have to write this book, which will be a section in the book. But you're right. Yeah. I mean, it's very important because I don't think people understand why they have this feeling of binge. And it's not about famine. It's about deprivation. Right. So when I suggest, hey, think about what you would eat like in famine, that means there's no option or opportunity and no one's taking it from you. It is the truth of everybody. Would you binge? No. You would ration. You would spread it out. But as soon as you have food and someone's going to take it from you, what does that feel like?
Yeah, that's deprivation.
And it's coming on Monday. They're going to take it on Monday.
Yeah. So we're going to have to eat everything we possibly can right now.
January 1st.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now what? Predictably, you're going to force feed because you're preparing for deprivation. You're not preparing for famine. You're preparing for deprivation, which means you're reducing what you feel entitled to. You've got to change the entitlement if you don't want to feel deprived. That, in essence, is what we're doing when I say you're going to have to accept your body. Let's add weight to your body. What we're doing is we're saying, okay, accept that the ideal doesn't exist anymore. It's not even an option. If it's not an option, do you feel deprived? No.
No, you wouldn't feel.
Yet another reason why I always say, what if you get hit by a car? That's another way to say it's no longer an option. It's no longer deprivation from the illusion of grandeur, from being so thin and beautiful and healthy, right?
Right.
So it changes the neurochemistry in your brain around how you're perceiving the body. So you're opening the brain to have a different reaction to the same result.
Right. Well, that makes total sense. I mean, it's
changing the need. It's like saying, oh, I'm going to take this third world response to this first world entitlement, and I'm going to try to line this third world response to a third world problem.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you go, oh, okay, do I really have to have the ideal, the cultural ideal, which is not even realistic it's only realistic for like a very, very small percent of people. And those small percentage of people, most of those people in that small percent have obsessive compulsive obsessions stemming from third world reactions to anything other than perfectionism, right?
Right.
It's like, if that's not even realistic anymore, if I completely dissolve what I thought I needed, I no longer feel deprived of these emotions. I have immediate access to these emotions because I no longer have to have. My needs are less. Right?
Yeah.
I don't have to have it. If you don't have to have thinness, now what happens to this have to have people's acceptance?
It diminishes significantly.
It can. It can. What some people do is they'll try to find another alternative form of social acceptance. So they'll become very religious. They'll try to find a way to move up a different pecking order. So they essentially create a new first world problem in a different way. So there is
this too, though. People inherently, because we're pack animals, kind of speak. We want to be included in our community, and we want to be thought of well in our community. And in this culture, looking a certain way is one way to be thought of as more valuable. And so there is kind of that thought process in the Western culture that in your community, that's one way to be thought of as a better person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so that's and it becomes important if you believe that, right?
Yeah.
if you believe it and you actually internalize it. The key is internalizing it. If you internalize that as the truth of you, now you have to do it. Right? Now it becomes defining for you. So that's when it becomes part of that third world brain.
Right.
To where if we actually look from afar, in reality, this is a third world wiring that today, how much social support do you have?
I don't understand the question.
How much support do you have, and how much do you have a secure pack?
Yeah, I mean
it's an abundance.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of people.
It's crazy abundant.
Yeah.
But yet, because you are entitled to more, you feel deprived.
Isn't that interesting?
So you have to be willing to say, okay, if this is a third world need, let's go into third world reality. If I'm alone in a tent by myself, could I survive without a pack? As long as I have food and shelter. But if I have my husband, if I have my children, if I have a stranger, I can survive. My survive is better, and I can share my food with that person, which is another reason why we can survive together.
Yeah.
So if I share my food, right? I mean, can you see how it's really a matter of survival. And it's not really a matter of survival today. So we take these
so much abundance.
We take these first world issues and we create a feeling of, if I can't be accepted for the way I look, I'm going to die. So what you have to say is, okay, well, what if I am the ugliest person on the face of the planet? Am I really going to die today?
Yeah, no.
Now we get reality. Now it's like, oh, so really, if I look in the mirror, is this a threat?
My God, too funny. Sorry.
It's no big deal. Did you see my daughter come back here and go?
Yeah. She's like, ah! Yeah, the kids have the day off, so it's been entertaining.
My kids too. She just got home early. So anyway, it's such a fascinating conversation, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's so relevant.
Would you call it a third world problem, or would you say that it's basic human nature? Because I don't know, it feels like it's hardwired almost.
It is. It is. This is the thing. It's like, that's why I said we have third world brains. That's the truth. We don't have first world brains. We have third world brains.
Yeah. So it's hardwired that way no matter what our circumstances are.
Unless you can always be conscious of reality. The reality of it is that's why I said we've got to be able to take third world brain and match it with a third world environment. We don't live in a third world environment. We live in such insane abundance in all realms. Do I really need this? Well, relative to reality, I don't. So you always have to be conscious of, these are natural instincts, but do I really need it? No. So now it becomes an abundance. It's not a necessity. We don't have the same impulse, right?
Right.
If you have a third world brain and you're using a first world necessity, you're living in deprivation. Your brain that's third world thinks that this is necessity. And remember, culturally, there's no limit to how much money you could make, how much buying power you could make, how much thin beauty you could have. It's like weird permanence in the marketing of it. Because you and I both know we're going to age, so it's never permanent. So the illusion of permanence is just so manipulative. Right?
It is. Convinced ourselves that we need
and we feel like we are being deprived of our beauty. We are being deprived of Social Security because I've got wrinkles right here. Oh, what have I got? I got skin spots. Maybe I need to get my should I do that? Not that there's anything wrong with that. I really don't. It's whatever. You know what I mean? It's like, to each your own. Stay true to you and then have fun with society. Make fun of it and have fun with it. Right? We live in abundance. We have the opportunity. Don't take it so serious.
Well, that's the catch right there. You know how many people like myself do things because you want you're grasping at straws and you're looking for a solution. And then when it comes down to it, it's not Botox, it's not dieting, it's not any of those things.
None of that really matters. So if you get Botox, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
It's really not a big deal unless you make it a big deal. Then it's a big deal for you, right? Then you need it. Then without it, you feel fight or flight.
That's right.
So it's really a matter of context. Because I don't judge. I'm not going to judge any of that. I put makeup on. I probably could use some Botox. This gives me a headache. I worked straight for 10 hours yesterday having conversations like this. I had the worst headache right here. Probably because of this.
Oh my God, that's stupid.
Right? I mean, seriously. This is why it's like, okay, how do we take the third world brain that we have and we remove the first world ideals with it, but yet live in it? It's always a relative, it's about perception of what you need. What do you really need to survive? Truly. And you know what I do? I often go through, I do a mental scan. I call it a filtering system. What do I have? I could give this away. Do I really need that kitchen? Do I really need those curtains? Do I really need this picture of a bird? Of course not. I don't need any of it. I could give it away. If someone came here and they were like, oh my God, that picture just, I'd go, would you like it? I like it just as, right?
No attachment.
No, because I really don't need it. It's not important. Even though it's definitely an expression of how I feel or an expression of something that just made my heart pitter patter, I don't have to have it.
Yeah.
I live in abundance.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm very conscious of what third world is. Could I live in a tent? Yes. Third world. Right?
It'd be better than having no tent. That's absolutely true.
No, isn't that one? It's abundant. It's abundant relative to no tent. But even if someone had no tent, we could find a way to feel abundant. Because that's how you spread it out into gray. Right? You take what you have. You take what you believe is necessary. Knowing this, would you create a need that is above and beyond your capacity?
I wouldn't.
Neither would I. You want to know why? Because if you do, what do you feel between reality and
that's deprivation?
Which means you better work harder. You got to earn something. And then you're withheld from it. Then you got to find a way to prove yourself. You got to improve yourself.
Yeah. Which comes back to the reason that I started seeing you, because I could not figure out for the life of me how to get a handle on this, get a handle on my obsession with food and where my next meal was coming and you know how I looked and what people thought of me, and I couldn't get out of the rat race. And after 25 years,
what does it tell you? Third world brain created from a first world problem. It's real. It feels real. It's hijacking. You're inflaming the brain based on those beliefs. It's super inflammatory because you believe you need more and you're not getting it. You feel deprived. You have to find it. You need to get it. You need to work on it. You're inflaming the brain right there. You have a brain inflammatory response based on what you think is necessity to survive. So if you believe you need to be thin to survive, if you believe the food has to be perfect to survive, if you believe you need to have micromanagement with your food to survive, you are in essence creating inflammation bigger and worse than the food you eat.
I didn't realize it created that much inflammation, but that makes total sense.
Well,
absolutely.
Compare how you feel now to how you felt then. Same body, honey. You might have even gained a few pounds. Don't you agree you feel so much healthier?
Feel so much healthier, and the crazy thing is I'm not eating any different, obviously eating less.
You're eating bad food.
If there is I'm not morally judging food.
So you're no longer inflaming the brain based on moralizing the food as a threat, which is a form of this is going to take away my health.
Yeah. Well, you always have that low grade, at least for me, I had this low grade, anger and stress and...
What do you think that is?
The deprivation was causing it,
Okay, and what do you think that is when you say I had this weird low grade anxiety, anger, stress? What do you think that is in the brain?
Well, that's inflammation for sure in the brain, yeah.
Thus, where's the science? Does it exist that discuss beliefs, fear, and inflammation in the brain? If you believe that you have to eat perfect macros, you can't eat anything inflammatory to be healthy, and health to you is survival, what do you think you're doing? You're inflaming the body, which makes you sensitive to disease. It makes you sensitive to your body being fat because it requires fat to survive. It's amazing. Actually, that inflammatory response is like unbelievable. It's amazing. It's that isn't the problem. The problem occurs with the beliefs that create a fight or flight response from nothing.
Yeah. That's what we made up.
Yes.
Well, and as my husband often says, he's so cute, he'll say, you know, things are going really good when you start worrying about things that you never thought in your whole entire life you'd worry about. And I think that's what it is, right? We're not worried about where the food's going to come. We're not worried about having a roof over our heads. So we come up with all this other crap to worry about.
Yeah, and even so, right, even so, that worry is relative to American standards.
Right.
Like, could you live in an apartment? You realize an apartment in another country is like luxury. See? First of all,
we don't realize that here. You know, I mean, if you think about it all in all.
Oh my God. No, we've honestly, the best thing they actually could do in the education of our children is make them aware of how life is in a third world environment, how life was for thousands and thousands of years for us and everybody else. It's like, this is what we used to do to survive. Then all of a sudden they go to the bathroom, flush the toilet, and go,
wow, running water.
Crap. Like, oh my gosh, the amount of work they had to do, the amount of work other countries have to do just to have clean water. They do it because that's what they do. It's not a big deal. This is the way they live. It's important. It's vital. This is real issue.
Yeah.
If we had to do that, deprivation, punishment, I feel this is not even, I can't even. Think about it. Do they have inflammation, or do we, under their circumstance? Who is going to have disease? Them living and sustaining in a third world country, or us going to that environment? What would it feel like?
Well, if we look at the disease in our country versus other countries, I think that kind of talks for itself.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. How many people go camping and honestly feel so uncomfortable with the fact that they have to pee outside?
Oh, absolutely.
They're very sensitive then. If that's what makes them uncomfortable, could you imagine the sensitivity to inflammation?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Versus someone who lives in that environment and has learned to provide for themselves in that environment, what would make their brain inflame? Being chased by a bear?
Yeah. I was going to say it'd have to be, life-threatening, because, I mean, what would you don't have anything, you know?
Oh, no, and as long as you have, it's just a very, very different. And even though you could say they live with death threats on a daily basis, can their kids eat this water without getting some catastrophic disease? It is real for them. But they do what they do, and it's relative to just what they're used to, right?
Yeah.
Take a lower class American who, and give them a tent and say, okay, survive. How do they feel?
They're probably a whole lot less miserable than we would be, at least me.
Of course, because we have these entitlements that we believe that we have to be happy and to be comfortable, right? But even then, they would feel deprived because they don't have even the bare necessities that we all have. So there's this sense of deprivation relative to what is surrounding us. And I think too, that's also biological, because we're wired to assimilate to the society we are in. So if we have such a huge variance in what is entitled, and there's no real class separation, because the media, we have to look at the media as a huge part of this problem. Trust me, this is actually in science in terms of social observations. The media presents something that we're all free to have. That luxury car, it only costs $300 a month with, don't forget, it's like $5,000 down. They create this illusion of freedom to have access to these foods. And our brains, if we're not conscious, right? If we need to have these things to feel secure, we will feel deprived if someone else has it, if they don't work as hard as me. I work harder. How come they're driving that car?
Yeah.
I'm deprived.
Or we feel like a lesser person because they've got it and we don't.
Yeah.
We judge ourselves as a
That's one way.
being. Yeah.
That's one way. You can see, you can respond to that like, they must be better than me. It's like, look at Hollywood, right? This person just looks good and they can pretend really well. How is it that we give them so much credibility?
Yeah.
Right? It's because we believe that they've achieved the highest of all financial freedoms, which make them very secure in our society. So if you look at how they live and dress and you think that that's something we should be able to do, you work hard to do it. But what happens when you don't get it, when you're working hard? You feel deprived. Yeah. Now there is chemistry in the brain. And what do you think the natural response is if you're starting to feel threat to survival? It's called dopamine. What they find is that in social environments, that the more the society is held to standards that they see, but that you've given them routes to get it, but the routes don't work, they have this feeling of being withheld or deprived from what they think is an entitlement for their work. And there's more narcotic abuse because they're trying to, if you look at it from the brain's point of view, you're trying to reduce inflammation. As if smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, smoking weed, having more sex, eating more food, trying to be thinner is going to make up the difference. Yeah. As if
there's an empty hole there. There's an empty hole there, and so you're trying to fill it.
Yes, but the hole is only there because you believe that these things are required to feel satisfied in your life.
Right. Right, but it goes back to the fact that that's the reality that they live in. Do you know what I'm saying? So it is real because their brain's reacting as if it's real.
That's because you believe. There's a belief there, just because it's there. So once you become aware, right? Because I think a lot of times it requires, this is part of the evolution we are going through right now. It's like now we have is how do we become aware and transcend this? So how do we have less than what everybody says is necessary to have a good life and to feel really good about what we have? Well, you have to reduce your needs. You have to say, I need less than what I have. That means what I have is abundant.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily.
You make me want to get rid of all of my house has so much stuff.
Well, you don't have to get rid of it, but do you need it? I mean, how much stuff do you have that you only kept?
If I came home and half of it was gone, I'd be like, or even most of it was gonna be like, okay, that's great, whatever. Someone clean the house for me.
Would it feel beneficial for you to get rid of it?
Would it feel what?
How would you feel if you cleansed your house?
You probably feel a lot lighter.
Well, that's you. I mean, I'm talking to you. How would it feel to get rid of all the stuff that you acquired in a state of deprivation?
I would feel a lot lighter. I really would, because then there's not that sense of need. Like, it's the same thing with the food that I've gone through, which has just been absolutely amazing, is to not, like, our pantry doesn't have hardly any food in it, and that's the first time in my whole entire life. The kids are like, what's for dinner? I'm like, well, let's go see what we can make. Mm-hmm. Seriously, there's no food in the pantry. I'm not like a squirrel anymore. Mm-hmm. And that's how I feel about my stuff.
The funny thing is the stuff with the squirrel is that you would probably hide it because someone's going to take it. And if they see you eating it, that's what I meant.
The good stuff would have to be hidden.
You mean the bad good stuff?
Yeah, exactly, the bad good stuff.
You are living in a state of deprivation. It's not famine. It's being deprived. So remember, deprivation is when you believe the standards that are acceptable are more than what you have.
Yeah.
How do you get past? Huh?
That's brilliant. I mean, it really is. You're brilliant.
I'm not brilliant. This is brilliant. It is a brilliant. It is the truth. That's what it is. Is it brilliant or is it just reality? All of a sudden, it's like
right. But the thing is, it's so funny because after watching your videos and still not getting it, and then talking to you and finally getting it, I'm very clear that it all makes sense. It's perfect sense. It's not rocket science. But
you've heard me say that before.
Yes, but for most of us, we still don't get it until someone actually holds your hand and walks you through it and smacks you upside the head, and then you go, oh
my God,
okay.
How did I not see that? How did I not see that, right?
Exactly.
Well, I think it's because we get wrapped up in trusting other people's beliefs, especially our parents, especially the people we care about. If you care about someone and you believe you need them, their beliefs become important.
Yeah.
Right? It's like with your parents, my parents, they had these beliefs, and they, in their whole heart, honestly, truly dedicated themselves to indoctrinating these beliefs in their children, because they believe to their whole heart that it is necessary spiritually.
Right. They thought they were doing the right thing.
They were helping us spiritually survive.
Yeah.
Spiritual survival. Third world brain, spiritual survival, right? So we have all this abundance, and we have to, at some point, spiritually, we need to know, certain things to survive it, right? Fight or flight with spirit. Okay. They did the best they could. If I had an opportunity to go back, couldn't change anything. How could I go back into that environment and not feel controlled, deprived of reality? How could I not feel bad about myself when I left, feeling that whatever I was taught was true? Well, I'd have to have a very clear understanding within myself of what reality is for me.
Right.
And to see that all they're teaching me is what is really reality for them and what they believe is the right thing to do. This honestly is, as much as in my, how I received it or interpreted it was really hard for me. If I could do it again, it wouldn't be that hard. Same upbringing, not that hard.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't take it serious. I wouldn't actually internalize it with my survival. I would never have been so diseased in the brain. It wouldn't have been so warped into fight or flight on such a level that it literally created suicidal depression.
Yeah. And they meant no harm in that,
No, they didn't. That's why I'm like, oh my God, I love them so much. And that was really just them. If they could do it different, they would. I know that. I've asked them. But even then, even if they didn't, if they said, no, I would do it the same way, I'd be like, and I could go through it again the same way. And I could turn out so much better than I did. Because I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's a matter of believing it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and when you're younger, you're impressionable, and there's, your parents have the right answers. And so there's a lot of, I think, brain things that are even more intense at that age.
Oh, I agree. And a lot of our adulthood is breaking free from those beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
Everybody's home from school. All right, I'm gonna stop this video. Thank you for sharing this.
Absolutely.